I just played a nice game of Blitz chess, and right now we are reviewing it with my daily chess.com game review. So for context, I'm playing white here. I'm playing a 3+2 Blitz time control. That means I start with 3 minutes on the clock, and for every move I make, I get 2 seconds back. And for today, I was playing the Hungarian repertoire, which starts with the Hungarian opening at 1 g3. So my opponent responds with d5, claiming central control. I play knight f3, the goal being prevent e5. They play knight c6, which encourages the move e5, and I say, no, I don't want to see that happen. I'm going to play d4. Now he plays bishop g4, and what would happen here is he could take my knight, removing a defender of the e5 square, and he could play e5. But in doing so, he would trade his bishop for a knight, which, I mean, most people wouldn't recommend. I ignore it. I say I'm going to play bishop g2. If we trade, hey, I'll retake with my bishop. And instead of taking my knight, he just plays queen d7. He could queenside castle, which we end up seeing in this game. Or if I were to castle, he could force a light squared bishop trade on h3. Reason being, my bishop is pinned to my rook. So I decide to play h3. And what this does is it says, I want your bishop to either take my knight or get out of here. He just retreats. I could have castled here. I could have played c4. Instead I played bishop f4, which is a little less flexible, but ultimately not a bad move. He queenside castles. Nothing to talk about there. I play knight c3, which is my first actual mistake of the game. And the reason this is a mistake is it prevents my c-pawn from controlling the center a little bit, and it also keeps my c-pawn on a square where my queen doesn't get easy access to the queen side where his king currently is. So this is a mistake. It's not ending the game by any means. In fact, this knight on c3 does great damage for me later on. Now he's creating a double attack on my c-pawn when he plays the move knight b4. I can't really defend this without offering the rook for 2 minor piece exchange. I didn't really want to see that. So I decided, hey, I'm going to delay your attack by 1 move. I'm going to threaten your queen. He has to retreat or either move up the board, which he can't really do. So he retreats. That was his best move, and now I have the issue again. I have 2 pieces looking at my relatively undefended c-pawn. I could address this, but instead I say I'm going to cut my losses, I'm going to castle. This is a mistake. I could have kicked a bishop back. I didn't really see the need to, so I didn't. Keep in mind this is Blitz, so I was moving without considering all my options. And finally, he takes my pawn. I do have to move my queen now that it's attacked by his bishop. He decides to retreat his bishop, which was completely uncalled for in this moment. The computer thinks it's a mistake for that. He should have pushed away my knight on e5. This might be a mistake, but we'll see later in the game that really didn't matter. I finally play a3, kicking his knight away. His knight retreats. I play rook c1, lining up with his king on the c-file. He takes my knight, and instead of recapturing right away, I decide to take that d5 pawn with my knight. I could take the knight right away, or I could put my pieces on active squares. I'm threatening a check here on c7 with my 2 pieces. My bishop now isn't blocked by a d-pawn on d5, so I have a lot of piece activity. I am still down that knight, but this is much scarier for black than if I were to recapture. So he plays c6, and I think this move really determines the trajectory of this game, because this move does not accomplish anything. In fact, I think it's more good for me than it is for him. He can't really take my knight right now. He could take it with the rook, but he would lose it to my bishop, which then couldn't be recaptured because of my rook pin down the c-file. So, in my opinion, this was a waste of a move, and I think this is what caused him to lose the game. After seeing this move c6, I decided to recapture my knight, so now I have a bishop on e5, and of course he chases this away. I retreat, though I didn't really need to. Going through the engine line, I could have played queen a5 here. He would have to move his king because there's a checkmate threat on c7. So he moves his king. From here I take a free pawn. Engine recommends that he moves again, just giving up his queen. If he goes here, that's a fork. The fact that Engine thinks that a queen sack is the best course of action here means maybe I should have looked at queen a5 in further depth, but lesson learned. And so instead I retreated my bishop. He plays e5 finally. That was the entire goal of his opening, it seems, and he finally got it in. I take his pawn. Now my queen is looking down a rook file. Not the greatest thing ever, but could be good for me. He takes my pawn, and I retreat my bishop. So now my bishop is looking at his a7 pawn, which is currently undefended. And, well, he makes the mistake of trying to defend that pawn, because I played queen a5. And though it doesn't necessarily threaten a checkmate immediately, it does threaten to take that a7 pawn. And when I do, well, he'll have to move back to c8, where he just was. So effectively, just wasted a move. Now, this move settles the game. As you can see from the engine eval, there is a mate in 5. Now, did I find it? No. I got something faster, but it wasn't the forced mate. This move, all it really does is prevent my queen from taking the a7 pawn, because it is now on a6. I don't want to take that pawn. In fact, I would rather do this. I play queen c7 check. He has to move his king over to a8. There is no other option here. And this is where I missed a more efficient mate, you could say. And the move, I mean, if you want to find it, go ahead and pause right here. But the move, which looks pretty crazy right now, is rook takes pawn c6. And after taking this, well, now black has to defend this checkmate threat. His best way to do that is to sacrifice some pieces. I mean, he can take it here, but I have knight b6 check. After he moves, I take the queen using my bishop, which is nicely placed on the g2 square. And then it looks like the engine's just recommending sacrificing every piece you have. I mean, there's a forced mate here. So I didn't find rook c6, but I did find what appears to be the second best option, and I play knight b6 check. So what does he do from this point forward? Well, the only move is king a7, after which I deliver a double check. It wasn't the best move, but it's pretty forcing. And then finally, I make the move that secures the game. I sacrifice a piece on c6. Really, he has to take it with his queen here, otherwise he just loses immediately. Well, I guess that isn't much better. But instead, he plays rook takes c8, and I get the funny looking move bishop b7 checkmate. And so, nice little game here. I got myself a nice bishop checkmate. Overall, my opponent didn't make any unusual moves. I mean, he had a couple mistakes, one of them being c6. Maybe this bishop retreat was a waste of a move. Moving the king over to b8 was also a waste of a move. But as you can see from engine eval, it's not necessarily any one move blunders here, just a sequence of bad mistakes that ended up leading him to this funny looking bishop checkmate. I think I made a great use of my pieces here. I really just let the opening play for itself. Again, this was the Hungarian opening, represented by g3, the eventual bishop g2. I hope you enjoyed this game, and I will see you next time.